So we are going to look at entering data for the beginning of the year assessment. Um, we will also look at entering data for the unit assessments on a different video, but in order to keep this short and sweet, we're just going to look at the beginning of the year assessment, and I'm going to go a little bit quickly, so make sure you have that pause button ready and maybe another browser open if you're trying to follow along and access at the same time. So I'm going to go to my teacher edition. I've already logged in, and I'm going to go to my teacher edition to access today's organizer, as it brings me to the lesson that it thinks I'm teaching today. So if I've already given my beginning of the year assessment and I have yet to enter the data for that assessment onto ConnectEd, I'm going to navigate back to the beginning of the year assessment with that arrow right beside lesson 1.8 here, using that arrow to get to the beginning of the year assessment. And I'm going to click on that. And that takes me to the overview for the beginning of the year assessment. And there is no button down here for evaluating. There would be on most lessons and on every assessment lesson, there is a button down here that says evaluate, and that quickly brings you to where we need to go. But for the beginning of the year assessment, we don't have that. So we have to go over here to the green activities button and click that. And when we do that, we get the beginning of the year assessment over here, and we have to click on that as well. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And now we have the blue evaluate button that we're looking for. And that's in the upper right hand corner of the page. I'm going to click on that evaluate button, and it will bring me to the actual digital version of the assessment, which the vast majority of us have not assigned. We are assigning these beginning of the year assessments with paper and pencil. I think the digital versions of most of the grade levels have some bugs to work out, so I don't recommend using those at this time. Even if you did at some point decide to assign an assessment online to your students, if you have access to the computers you would need to do that, you will still need to enter the data manually. And the way to do that is to go up to the quick entry button right here and click on it. And that brings up your students. I have 3 students. I was going to say all of your students, but it only gives you the first 7 students in your class. I only have 3 total, so it only shows me 3. But if you have added your students to your classes, the first 7 students will appear up here. There is an interesting bug or glitch that they're in the process of fixing, and they want to have fixed by October, which happens when your total number of students is a multiple of 7. So if you have 14, 21, or 28 or 35 students entered into your class, added into your class, then the last 7 students alphabetized by first name will not appear. And you have to actually add an extra student, and I can help you do that. I have some student names that you can add to your class, but please let me know if that happens and I will help you out. In the meantime, you've come to this screen, and if you haven't entered any data yet, it won't look like this. All of those items will have NEs instead of pluses or minus. You can score a student's entire column, every single item, as meets using the autofill button, which is right here underneath their name, where it says score. I can score Charlie here's entire assessment just by clicking this, and everything will be marked correct. And then I can go in and change the correct answers, or the answers he did not get correct, into incorrect by clicking on them. When you click those items, it takes about 3 seconds for it to change, and it changes to the next one. If it was correct and you clicked it, it changes to incorrect. If it's incorrect and you click it, it changes to not assessed, NE, about 3 seconds later. And when it's NE and you click it, it changes to correct in about 3 seconds. That delay happens whenever you click on them, but it will catch up with you if you decide to click 1, 2, 3, 4 right in a row. All the way down the column. It will eventually catch up to you. It just has a 3-second delay. You can also autofill by item if you click this score button over here. That will autofill the entire screen. There's 7 students on your screen. You'll still have to do that again for the next 7 students and the next 7 students. So most commonly you'll probably be using this autofill button. If all of the students in your class did fairly well and you think it's going to take less time to just score the entire class as correct, you can do that over here, and then you can just go around and change the individual students' incorrect items to NM for not meets or minus. If the entire class did very poorly on the assessment and got most of the items wrong, of course you could autofill the whole thing with the pink button and then go change the few that they got right to correct. So that whole class autofill is helpful too. I shouldn't call it whole class. I think it's just whole screen. It will autofill the 7 students on your screen. I don't believe it scores all of the students in your class. I can't try that right now because I only have 3 students in my class here. That's the basic information that you need to know. Again, you have to do this whether or not students eventually are able to take the assessment digitally because there are too many items that it really requires an expert teacher such as yourself to determine whether or not the response meets or doesn't meet each standard. A couple more things to point out before we finish. There are these words over here next to each item. Some items actually have a content and a practice standard that are being assessed. The content standard is the Common Core Content Standard. This one is 5NBT5. I can click right on that to determine what it is. Fluently multiply multi-digit whole numbers using standard algorithm. That basically just tells you what the standard is that's being assessed. And then the practice standard are the standards for mathematical practice, SMP1. And I don't usually remember what these are just by looking at the SMP number. So if you click on that, it tells you what it is. In most cases, you will be assessing the content and practice standards based on whether the item is right or wrong. Sometimes the content standard will be met with a correct answer, but the practice standard might not be, depending on what that practice standard is. So it's a good idea to pay attention to what that practice standard is, but in most cases, both of these items will be either correct or incorrect together. If you do not assess, if you leave it NE, which is for not evaluated, then it will not be figured into the calculations when looking at score reports and student reports and progress reports. And that will be another video. We'll talk about how to look at reports. I'm still in the process of doing some research and to see what exactly is available in terms of reports, but pretty soon we will put up a video and I'll come around and help you with that as well. If you have any questions about entering data into ConnectEd, please send me an email or let me know otherwise. Thank you.